By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are back in Leeuwarden, the Netherlands, for the Uthden Troll Cup. And we have reached the semi-finals. And in the semi-finals, we have German player Thomas, who's playing the deck. And he's taking on Jon Dittert. And Jon is playing an underpowered deck. It's mono red. Okay, it's got two black cards. I'm sure you can guess which black cards they are. But I'm just going to call it mono red. It's a beautiful deck. It's got Earth Elementals, Uthden Trolls. It's epic. But before I start with the deck, first I would like to mention that, of course, as always, you can also choose to first go to the games, check out the decks later. The easiest way to do this is by checking out the description below, because there you will find several timestamps. One of the timestamps reads MTG Games, so just click on there. It'll take you straight to the games, and in that same description below, you can also find the link to the Timmy Talks Patreon page, and that is patreon.com/Timmy Talks. So if you want to become a supporter of the show, if you want to help me continue making this content for you and streaming all over Europe, all over the world, please consider becoming a patron and supporting what I do. It already starts for just $1 a month. Okay, and now that you're fully informed, I'm going to start with the decks. I'm going to start with the player on the left, that is Thomas. Let's take a look at his The Deck. And here we see the deck of German player Thomas, and yeah, this is the deck, right? This is a very controlling build. When we're looking at this list, we see control cards such as Mazes of Ith, Wrath of Gods, Moats. So basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that your opponent cannot hurt you. And then from that control position, you want to build out, get card advantage through Gem de Tome, through the blue power. He's also playing with the Hive. Of course, he's playing with counter magic. And I always think if I see a deck with the Hive, I'm kind of like, okay, I know what you're going to do. You want to control the board, slowly make 1/1s, and then maybe not even kill me with that, but those 1/1 flyers are also like great as blockers, you know? So they just make sure that you don't take any damage, and then when the time's right, you kind of take over the game. I mean, a deck like this can usually just win on Mishra's Factories alone. I do like the fact that Thomas has decided to play with a little bit more creatures, right? He's playing with 3 Serra Angels, which is quite a lot. I think a lot of the deck versions would take out those Serra Angels and would just put Gem de Tomes in it. So he's playing with 3 Serras, which I think is cool. I kind of like it if we see some more creatures. And like I said, he's also playing with mazes. I think Maze and Wrath of God is a really nice combination, because when you play a maze, your opponent usually wants to play more creatures, right? Because the maze can stop one creature. Okay, so I'll just play a second, then at least I can deal some damage. And the more creatures you play out, the better the Wrath of God of Thomas gets, of course. And that's kind of the main 60. But in the sideboard, we've got some really good cards here for Thomas. We've got 2 COP reds. Remember, his opponent today, Jon Dittert, is playing mainly red. We see 2 blue elemental blasts in the side, and we also see Ivory Towers. And I think Ivory Towers, together with the Divine Offerings, could be quite good in today's match, because, you know, red is of course known for burn, for dealing a lot of damage very quickly. And then if you have a little bit of life gain, a little bit of counter magic, and you can negate that damage and gain a little bit of life, then, you know, at a certain point, the red deck literally burns out. Like, it runs out of steam, it runs out of gas, whatever you want to call it, and then you can completely take over. So this is really going to be a match between the deck wanting to do what the deck does, which is control and card advantage, and of course, Jon with his mono red deck trying to attack, be as aggressive as it can possibly be. Talking about that, let's take a look at the deck of Jon Dittert. And here we see the deck of Jon Dittert, the American player, and I am really impressed that this made it all the way to the semifinals. It's underpowered. I believe it was last year, Jon, that you also won the prize for best underpowered deck. You're gonna win it again because you're the only underpowered deck that's left in the tournament, which is not that odd because this is the semifinals of the event. I personally know Jon as a patron of the show. Thank you for your support, Jon. And I also know you as a very skilled X-Points player. Like, you've won that tournament multiple times. And it's just impressive, you know, to see you make it this far with the deck. And maybe let's just try to kind of assess, you know, what is this deck trying to do? So it's mainly red. It's aggressive, but it's actually not that aggressive. He's playing 4 lightning bolts, 3 fireballs. He's also playing a fork, which is cool, and 2 disintegrates. So I guess what he wants to do is just early stages of the game, kind of try to ramp up with the Flower Stones, right? And the 1 Soul Ring, maybe try to get out a creature quickly, kill the smaller creatures with your lightning bolts, and then later in the game kind of finish the game off with your fireballs. And of course you can start playing your bigger creatures. He's playing earth elementals, and he's playing a Shivan Dragon as well. And Earth Elemental, I think, is always a little bit underestimated. It's 2 red and 3 for a 4/5, and it's 5 toughness. Makes it quite hard to deal with, right? It doesn't die to a Psionic Blast. It doesn't die to a Lightning Bolt. There are a lot of 4/4 creatures in the format that, lose a battle with this Earth Elemental. So it's really cool to see this Earth Elemental here. And then we also have, of course, the 4 Suchis. Suchi, just a card that's incredibly good in the format without mana burn. So 4/4 for 4. And I mean, what I like as well is that he's playing with his Uthden Troll prize card. I believe that's your prize card, right? John, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but there's a really cool Uthden Troll altar here. And then behind that, there's a second Uthden Troll. So John is playing with 2 Uthden Trolls. Oi, oi, oi! At the Uthden Troll Cup, and he's not the only one. I've seen a lot of Uthden Trolls at this event, but he is the only one that makes it to a flippin' semifinals, with 2 Uthden Trolls in the deck. I mean, that's kind of amazing. And I think one of the key cards in this deck, and I mean, John, let me know in the comments below, please, if I'm just rambling nonsense, but I think one of the key cards in the deck here is Blood Moon. Blood Moon can be so good. We see so many people playing with wonky mana bases just because they want to squeeze in all the restricted cards, all the power cards, everything. And again, that makes sense, but that does mean that you're vulnerable to these Blood Moons. Now, when we're looking at the sideboard of the deck, because we haven't really talked about that, in the sideboard, we're seeing 3 red Elemental Blasts. They could be quite handy. We see another Blood Moon. We also see Tormod's Crypt, which I guess is good with a lot of recalls around. There are also some decks, like a Reanimator deck, that kind of work on, the graveyard, so you can take that out with your Tormod's Crypt. Haven't seen a lot of Tormod's Crypts in the tournament, so maybe John, let me know if the card has been good for you so far or not. Another card which I really like is Artifact Blast. I think Artifact Blast is one of the best answers to a Triskelion, and Triskelion is of course a card we see quite a lot in all different types of decks. So I think Artifact Blast is a really good answer to that, and it's so clean, and when you're playing red, people don't expect counter magic, so that's kind of cool. So I would love to see Artifact Blast in action here. Talking about that, we've discussed the deck of John, we've discussed the deck of your opponent, so that means we are ready for the match. Let's go. Game number 1 of the semifinals of the Uthden Troll Cup, the 6th edition. And here on the left side, we have Thomas. He's playing the deck, a player from Germany. He's taking on Jon Dittert, and he's a player from the United States of America. He's starting here with the Mishra's Factory. He's playing mono red underpowered. So he's got the best underpowered deck still in the tournament. Also won that prize, by the way, last year. That's why he has that playmat there that says 2023 Uthden Troll Cup. So really an exceptional result for him already here at the Uthden Troll Cup. Now let's see what Thomas can do in his first turn. Starting with 2 Moxen and a Plains, passing the turn. And this is kind of relevant for John already, because it means that Thomas now has a potential disenchant that he can cast. So, if you're John, do you want to animate the factory here? I guess the answer is no. We first see a strip mine though, so he's going to do something completely different, stripping the Plains here. And the Plains is gone, and there's a pass. And I mean, the basic Plains is a really good target for John, because remember, he is playing with Blood Moon's main, I believe 3 in total. And Blood Moon can be quite devastating for Thomas here. Here we see a mountain. There's a Felwar Stone. So the Felwar Stone is not making any mana yet because of that Maze of If. There's no lands on the battlefield for Thomas that actually produced anything. There's another Maze. So again, lots of good potential targets for the Blood Moon here. And let's see if John can make his land drop, and he can with a mountain. So it has now enough lands to cast the Blood Moon. The question is, do you want to? It's going to tap 2 first. There's a Shatter. You're really going to go on the mana denial plan here. Shattering the Sapphire makes perfect sense, because of course the blue gives you access to blue power. For example, that Ancestral Recall. And that's really a card that can get you out of a jam. And Thomas is now unable to cast it, even has to pass here without doing anything. So missing his land drop. Here we see a Badlands. So things are looking up here for John. Casting a Suchi here. Problem, of course, is that double Maze of If. That is the annoying thing. Also a pass here again from Thomas. So Thomas doing nothing. And I mean, if John has a Blood Moon here, you could consider casting, because you take out 2 mazes, you can attack for 6. The downside is then you are giving, of course, some mana here to Thomas. Here we see another Felwar Stone. And there we see an Uthden Troll. Oi, oi, oi! So an Uthden Troll here in the semi-finals. This is really exciting. 2/2 creature, 1 red to regenerate. And of course the poster boy of the Uthden Troll Cup. And now finally Thomas has found a land, by the way, an Underground Sea. Passing the turn. And I think if you're Thomas, you probably really want to have white mana. I think the game would have been completely different if we still would have had that basic plains. Look at this, tapping a lot. There's a Mind Twist. Oh, this is devastating. A Mind Twist here. I don't think there's anything that Thomas can do with just a single blue. Exactly shuffling up here. He's going to lose 6 cards. Only going to keep 1 card. This is devastating here for Thomas. What a great first game thus far for Jon. And I mean, then if you're... So 1 card he gets to keep. What is he going to discard here? Is there a balance in the discard pile? That's what I want to know. Fireball, Disenchant, Moat. Moat would have been really good. 2 counterspells and a mana drain. Yeah, so that Shatter on the Sapphire was a really good move as well. And just a pass here again. The good news for Thomas is... Yeah, ooh, there's a Blood Moon. Yeah, so now he's got 3 mountains and an emerald. There's the attack for 6. Oh, man. This is devastating for Thomas. What I wanted to say is the good news for Thomas is that if he draws into a balance, but then again, he needs to also have, of course, planes to cast the balance. I mean, this is looking very, very bad for Thomas here in the first game of the semifinals. And Jon is just showing what his deck can do. And remember, completely powerless deck. Here's the factory that's just another mountain because of the Blood Moon. Passing the turn. I don't think there's much that Thomas can do here. We're probably going to see another hit of 6. Exactly, he's going to drop to 8. I mean, if he's lucky, he's got 2 more turns. He's in a very fragile state here in the semifinals. And is the German player here going to lose his first match? Of course, after sideboarding, he's got some strong sideboard cards to include. Here's the attack for 6. It's going to drop to 2. Are we going to see a lightning bolt to finish the job? No, just a pass. There's a Tundra, which is just a mountain. I mean, he's got 5 mountains now and then exactly picking up the cards. Oh, man. What an exciting first game here. I didn't see this coming. Jon's deck is just is looking phenomenal. Remember, underpowered mono red taking out the deck here in game 1. It's just game 1 though, so now both players are going to dive into their sideboards, and then we are going to go to game number 2. Game number 2, here we go at the semifinals of the Uthden Troll Cup. So Thomas here, of course, on the play with the deck after losing that first game. And Jon on the draw. He's playing mono red, underpowered. It looks like he's taking a mulligan here, starting with 6. He's the player on the right. And there's a City of Brass by Thomas. And I guess we're off here. Second game. Thomas needs to win this to stay in the tournament. Let's see what he can do at his turn 2. There's a Strip Mine. And there's a Mox Jet. Passing the turn. Of course, the deck, quite a slow deck, wants to control the board. Jon being a bit more aggressive with his red deck. Here we see a Felwar Stone. The Felwar Stone can make any color of mana because of the City of Brass. But we do see a response here. Okay, there's a quick disenchant on the Felwar. Now, the Felwar Stones are kind of the Moxen in the deck of Jon. Here we see a Maze of If. And there we see a Black Lotus. So that Black Lotus could be really useful. Because it can make any color of mana. And I think if you're Jon, if you have a Shatter, you want to try to Shatter it as fast as you can. There we see a Badlands. So 3 mana here. Or we're going to see an Uthden Troll. That's what I want to know. It's going to tap 2. Perhaps a Shatter. Yep, there's a Shatter on the Lotus. Yeah, that's the thing with the Black Lotus. If you play it out and you don't have a plan with it, you've got the risk that it eats up a Shatter or whatever artifact removal your opponent has. On the other hand, I mean, if you don't, maybe you're going to run into a Mind Twist, and we saw that actually happen in the first game. So it's always kind of tricky. Thomas here dropping to 18, dropping a Chaos Orb. There's the pass. So mana issues here now for Jon. We saw that in game 1. We had mana issues for Thomas. Now we have mana issues for Jon. And here we see a demonic tutor. So things are looking up here for Thomas in game number 2. 4 cards in hand for Jon. I wonder what he's going to look up. I was kind of thinking, okay, he's thinking about COP red here. A part of me was expecting to see Thomas actually flipping the Chaos Orb on one of the mountains of Jon, just kind of really attacking the mana base. And Thomas here really taking a moment. So considering the Circle of Protection red, you could of course also consider going for an Ancestral Recall, trying just to draw some cards. But COP red, of course, is a devastating card for Jon, also because he's playing red and artifacts. Doesn't really have a good card to deal with enchantments. I believe that the Chaos Orb is his only weapon against it. And I would really love to know what that hand looks like of Thomas, right? I mean, does he have enough lands, for example? It's a pretty big if with whatever decision you're going to make. Putting the deck back there in the corner, passing the turn. And Jon just needs to find lands. I mean, he's got a lot of heavy hitters in the deck. Earth Elemental, Shivan Dragons. Okay, here we see a Swamp. Passing the turn. No Blood Moon for Jon here. There we see a Soul Ring. Thomas is going to use, it seems, no, he's going to tap 3. He's not going to use the Chaos Orb. Going to tap 3. Going to play, of course, that Circle of Protection red. So he looked up the Circle of Protection red with the Demonic Tutor. Gonna tap 2. Okay, there's the Chaos Orb. Wow, he has the Chaos Orb. Oh, I think it's his only answer to enchantments in the deck. Wow. I mean, maybe it is Jon's day. You know, sometimes you're at a Magic tournament and it is your day and you just have a really, really good run and you feel like nobody can beat you. It doesn't happen to me a lot, I have to admit, but you do have those days. And here we see a plateau, and maybe Jon is having one of those days. I mean, having that Chaos Orb is just perfect for him dealing with the Circle of Protection. At the same time, kind of also dealing with the Demonic Tutor, right? Because that's not out of the deck of Thomas as well. But Jon's still stuck on lands, and also Thomas just passing the turn. There's another Badlands. Or actually the first one. It's not another one, it's the first one. And here we see a Gem Tome by Jon. Which is great, but a quick disenchant though. Yeah, I mean, the deck is great in answering threats. It's not that good in putting pressure on your opponent. You can see that here. But it's great in like getting rid of all your permanents. There's a Felwar Stone. Passing the turn. Now remember, the Felwar can make any color of mana because of that City of Brass. Just a pass here. And now he's got 5 mana, you know, and that means he can play out some of the heavy hitters. 6 mana even now with the City of Brass, but just passing the turn. Let's see if Thomas can find, for example, a Sarah Angel. Playing 3 in the deck in total. Nope, just passing the turn. A Moat, by the way, is another great card against the deck of Jon. I believe Thomas is playing 2 Moats. There's a Tundra. So both players just kind of passing the turn. The thing is with Jon, though, if I remember his deck photo correctly, he's playing 3 Fireballs and 2 Disintegrate. So part of his strategy can also be to just, you know, try to get a lot of lands on the board and then try to play a couple of really big Fireballs or Disintegrates. The problem, of course, with that strategy is that you're playing against the deck. So the deck has counter magic. The deck now also has blue elemental blasts boarded in. He's got 2 in the sideboard, probably boarded those in. So it's going to be really tough, you know, to get any of those fireballs through the counter shield of the deck player. Looks like he's gonna cast something. Are we gonna see a Blood Moon? Because he's got the 3 lands there on that side. Is he gonna try to go for a Blood Moon? Gonna tap 3. There's a Blood Moon. Is it gonna resolve? Has, of course, also the Chaos Orb, so could also just flip on it on the end step with the risk that you then run into a Shatter. It looks like he is going to counter, though, taking the damage and playing a counter spell. Pretty cool altered counter spells, by the way, in the deck of Thomas. Here we see an ATOC, I believe. Oh, Red Elemental Blast back up. Are we now going to see a Blue Elemental Blast? This is big. It resolves. This is big. Now he's going to flip. There we see a Shatter. Yeah, I was kind of expecting this from Jon. I mean, Jon is too good of a player not to do this without a backup plan. So he had counter backup and he had Shatter backup against the Chaos Orb. And this could be problematic again for Thomas. Thomas is in the hole now. This Blood Moon is doing so much work. Yep, there we go. Oh. What a problem for Thomas. He thought he was safe with Encounter Magic and the Chaos Orb to potentially deal with the Blood Moon, but it's not meant to be. There's another Mace, which is just a mountain. This is so problematic. And also check out that basic Swamp there shining on the side of Jon. You know, if he finds a Mind Twist, he can do that dirty trick again that he did in the first game. And I mean, this is just horrible for Thomas. And I have to say, those Maces of If look so bad when you're playing against the Blood Moon. Gonna tap quite a lot. Are we gonna see a big Fireball or Disintegrate? That's what I'm kind of expecting here. Yep, there's a big Fireball. It's a Fireball of what, 8? I mean, is Thomas just gonna die here, you know? I personally thought he was the favorite with the deck, you know, fully powered. And yes, of course, Blood Moon is a problem, but... Oh, another Disintegrate. This is the end of the line here. Disintegrate for 8, I believe. So it's the end. Whoa! Jon. This is insane. You're moving on to the finals with an underpowered deck. I'm just going to say it again. An underpowered deck that has Earth Elementals in it and Uthden Trolls. Oi! And here we see the deck of Jon, and yeah, this is just amazing, an underpowered deck in the finals. But a nice thing to note is that this tournament has once been won by an underpowered deck. I believe that was an ATOC mono red deck, and that was the online edition during the years of COVID. And you know what? I'll just link. There's probably a link popping up right now. You can click on there to see that finals. That was quite an exciting moment as well. I believe it was Wouter at the time that won the event. But I mean, you know, this is just amazing. 200 players, and to see this deck of Jon here making it into the finals, it shows how good of player Jon is, and also that, you know, underpowered is not dead. You know, you can still make a very good underpowered deck. And yes, it's tough, and you know, and everything, you know, needs to work. It has to be one of those good days, I guess. But you can see here the strength of an underpowered deck like this one, and especially the strength, I think, of Blood Moon. Blood Moon, such a good card, and I think in game 2, the way, Jon, you played it with the Blood Moon, backing it up with that Shatter for the Chaos Orb and also that Red Elemental Blast for the counter spell, that was just absolutely brilliant. And talking about brilliant, the next episode will be the finals, where we're going to see this deck of Jon perform again. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. And before you go, also please take a moment to like, share, and comment on this video. All these things are free and really help the channel move forward. And talking about moving forward, you can also become a patron of the show. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks to find out how you can support the channel and help me to continue making this content for you. So if you're liking what you're seeing, please consider becoming a patron of the show. And if you become a patron of the show, you also get access to the Timmy Talks Discord page, and you can join in on all the online tournaments and other fun stuff that I organize for my patrons. And last but not least, you can also get your name in the end scroll at the end of every single video. What end scroll? This end scroll.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, early in the morning. Putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober,
Igitus, figitus, sumba, kazee.